Good evening to everybody. I thank PMI and also L&T for this opportunity. I have been working with academia for long when I was with TCS. I am happy to be here with you. Before I share my thought on this, I would like to acknowledge the great contribution of Indian academia. If you see companies like TCS or L&T or Infosys or Cognizant, any of these companies, most of their employees are from this country, and not all of them are from premier institutes only. They are all from second, third level institutes also. If you see the Chandrayaan success, what K Jain was referring to, most of those engineers, middle-aged engineers in that room, control room, they were all from other engineering colleges also. So that means we have fairly good education system in this country. Whatever panelists are adding now is that extra which will enhance the opportunities for our youngsters better. That is what, right? Not that something you have been lacking. That's one thing. Second thing, that is Indian industry, not only Indian industry, companies like Accenture or company like IBM Global, they are all depending on Indian talent produced by you people. And second thing I want to say, not only India, today American higher education system survives because of India and China only. Most of the graduate programs, we call postgraduate, they call graduate. Most of their graduate programs are run because of lot of students from India and China and Eastern world going there. That means they are all going, again, second level, third level institute students are also going there. New generation institute students are also going there. That means the global academic institutes also accept your graduates, right? I think we can be fairly happy that we have been doing good work, but we are adding that extra bite which we think will enhance the opportunities for the youngsters. That is what collectively all of us are interested. Youngsters have better opportunity. In that way, companies are also benefited and country is also benefited. Okay. Now, having this forethought, I will get into what Uday was telling at the beginning during his address. Project management is a critical, that was emphasized by different panel members also. Project management education is critical for every branches of study. I also strongly think so. By qualification, I am a physicist. By experience, I am a software scientist, HR professional, IT professional, right? And education professional. I have been part of governing councils. But nowhere I am a trained project manager, right? I am not a trained project manager. I tell you what happened. The marriage photo is seen there? Yeah. You are seeing a photo, right? Two pictures are there. I want to compare those two marriages. Both are performed by me. The left side marriage, my sister Prema and her husband Dr. Sundararajan. Incidentally, Prema is from ISRO. Recently, she retired from ISRO as a software scientist. That was the first marriage happened in 1988. The right side marriage, what you are seeing is recent marriage to 2019. Again, that is my second daughter's marriage. That is also performed by me. Both my father was no more when my sister's marriage, 1988. Both are performed by me. But the drastic difference between these two marriages will tell you certain important messages, which I think is relevant for project management discussion. When my sister's marriage happened, I had just moved to ISRO from my academic programs. And since I thought Madurai is my native place, so I was in Bangalore, I decided to have the marriage in Madurai so that I will have some support system. There was no contract marriages those days. Everything one has to, right from organizing flour, milk, curd, vegetables, everything one has to organize on his own. And I was not living at Madurai, I was from another city. So we did, and I am a very responsible brother, right? So I wanted to do a very good job in the absence of my father. I sincerely believe that I really did very well within whatever limitations I had. Like old days, before my mother's time, right, my mother's marriage time, like those days, I thought I will have two separate mandapams, one for bridegroom party, one for bride party. Modern days people don't do that. I did that. And to adjacent Kalyana Mandapams I could get, marriage halls I could get, only in suburb of Madurai, Tirunagar. Anybody familiar with Madurai will know in Tirunagar on the Tirupathi main road, to adjacent Mandapams I fixed. I thought I was doing extremely well. That tells you something. So what happened, bridegroom party was Sundar Rajan, the man who is not smiling, right? He is Dr. Sundar Rajan. I tell you why he is not smiling. He has very valid reasons not to smile. He has very, very valid reason. So initially they were happy. He was smiling only at the beginning. So they were happy, all those things set. And that night, but catering is from bride side for operational convenience. So periodically they have to come. That is about 20 meters, right? Less than 20 meters between these two mandapams. And what happened that evening, unexpectedly there was a heavy rain. Where I will go for 250 umbrellas at the time. So it was a hell. Coffee was not there, and coffee went there very cold. So all starting was on right foot like this. It was a big suffering. So this risk anticipation was not there for me. I did not expect. I thought I was doing great thing, but there was a rain which killed me. And that was, I tell you, 3 failures only. I did not anticipate rain. Second failure was that our marriages are Tamil marriages, are 3 days marriages. And first day evening, the photographer did not turn up. Muhurtam day is middle day. Then third day, another set of functions are there. The photographer did not come. Those days, unlike today, every mobile is a camera. There was very few friends, 1 or 2 friends, then some DAPA camera. 1 or 2 friends and 1 or 2 relatives, they had very, very average level of cameras. You can see on the left side photo, there is a very dummy photo, right? DAPA camera photo. The right side, my daughter's photo is elegant, right? That is done by a studio professional. So what happened? Photographer did not turn up. So some of our relatives and friends, they managed with whatever little camera. My sister's first day marriage album contains those photos only, right? Not professional photos at all. See, when you give an album like that, that failure is eternally registered also. It is not forgotten. Permanently is there with them, right? Eternally registered failure. So what had happened? Next day that fellow came. There was no mobile phone for me to connect. Studio I contacted, nobody picks up. So marriage time when I am already in tension, how much time I can spend on calling this fellow? So I left it. Next day he came on time. And I told him, why you did not come yesterday? Then he asked me, return question, today only your main function, you know. He knows, Muhurtam is that day, right? But that is also important, sir, I said. No, there were, at that time AIDMK rule was there. See, politics. M.G. Ramachandran was a chief minister. Of course, it was nothing to do with the national, state level politics then. This fellow says, there was suddenly one AIDMK meeting was there, I had to go, sir. That's all, he went for some AIDMK meeting. So he dissed me. I tell you, the last failure, again, I did not anticipate, I did not have redundancy. What project management generally advise, you have enough redundancy also. I don't have, I did not even have an idea about that. I did not have. Then what happened? Third failure is ultimate failure, I tell you. Just everything was over. I had bought lot of nice vessels for my sisters, right? We used to give a lot of Sidaram, right? And in fact, personally, I went so many times around Madurai city. I bought a Eversilver. I was very particular. My mother's time, they had given her some Eversilver soap box. During my sister's time, Eversilver soap box was not a common thing. It was not available. So I had to go around many places and bought a nice Eversilver soap box, all those things, right? I was very happy. 2 soap boxes, one for him, one for her. All are fine. I really did a good job. Good things were done. But what happened on the day of their departure, that mommy, that sister's mother-in-law, now mother-in-law marriage is over, Kesava, adala Hyderabad anupichu vichiru. I translate that for others. Kesava, at home they called me Kesava, you sent all those items of prema to Hyderabad. They were living in Hyderabad. My sister at that time had just moved to NRSC. That I did not know. I have no energy. Tired. Third day marriage. I did not even know existence of this need. A typical project management failure. There was no. That was not even in my list of items that I have to send them to Hyderabad. That was not in my list of items. So it was. It is not an anticipated issue was failing. Here, issue was not anticipated at all. There was a need like this I did not know. And those days, my grandfather's time, we had a lot of lands at Madurai suburb. And see, obviously, modern days people give on tenancy. They gave tenancy. My father and brother, his brother, they managed through tenancy only. So our village people, his name also I tell you, Periyagarapat, nice guy. He told me, Ayya, don't bother. I will get it. I will nicely pack and send to Hyderabad. He gave me such a. There was no Agarwal packers, movers like that those days. Maximum that Anumar, ABT, right? Yeah, that only was there. But I had not even planned for that. So I did not even have any list of such things. So when this Periyagarapan told me, it is, I will take care, I was so relieved. Everything was over. After a week, there was a lengthy letter from my sister's mother, Dr. Sundarajan's mother, and my sister separately. What had happened? Poor guy, Periyagarapan, a farmer, what he will know? A gunny bag, paddy comes in a gunny bag, you know. All these vessels he has put in a gunny bag and then nicely tied, packed and sent. All chutney only. All vessels are gone now. So naturally they were very, very unhappy. Again, how many of you know Tamil? Yeah, a lot of you know Tamil, right? Again, it was not Periyagarapan's mistake, it was again my mistake. Tirukural tells you, no, what Tirukural, Idhanai, even, Idhanal Mudipan and Aindu, Adhanai Avankan Vidal. For people who cannot understand Tamil, before assigning a work to a person, you must evaluate how he can do, whether he is familiar with the tool, whether he has a mastery in the tool which he is going to use this, and whether he is experienced to do this. After understanding his capability of doing this job with this tool, then give the work to him. I did not do all those things, right? In fact, Tirukural is a great book on management, right? Valluvar for management, there are a lot of things are there in that for management actually. Uday, I suggest you read Tirukural, Kannada version is also there. There is a couple of chapters are on management are there. You will find it useful. So, the second marriage, you see, absolutely all these errors are avoided. In fact, from my first daughter's marriage, there was, as Professor Satyanarayana was telling, constantly it is lifelong learning. We will always do mistakes. My second daughter marriage is absolutely perfect. Incidentally, she is also a software professional, like my sister. What was a failure in my first daughter's marriage? I had booked a Kalyana Mandapam in Madras. There are different levels and different marriages are happening in different levels. We had SKV caterers, a major famous caterers in Madras. He is a popular caterer. And when you had expected n number of guests for lunch, it had become 3n. What had happened? All those other levels also, SKS caterers, some name I have forgotten, SKS caterers, so we will go on the level 1 food is very good, like that everybody came to level 1. So I had to pay for 3 marriages that day. the lunch bill I had to pay for 3 marriages. Then I decided for my second daughter's marriage, never go for a mandapam where there is more than one marriage hall. That was a learning, right? So what is the difference between my daughter's marriage and my sister's marriage is only, same Kesavaswamy only. The only rich project management experience I learned from ISRO and later in TCS, that helped me to organize things better. So essentially I come back to what Uday was telling at the beginning, what other panelists are telling later. This project management education, sincerely I feel, as a person who is not formally trained in project management, as a person, I am sincerely telling you, please convince your leadership in academic institutes also, other leaders, for other branches of studies also. In my view, project management, either any engineering branch or any management people will be working in some project somewhere, and what other skills required for a project manager I will come and add in the next round. But I will sincerely suggest you talk to management and ensure that project management is some module is an education, is introduced to every branches of study, and some starting point PMI is already providing and L&T is already providing. That will be useful. Thank you. If I have taken more time, sorry, moderator.
So thank you. I think those were very insightful thoughts. I think I'll just build up on some of the thoughts. So let me just structure this. I think the first thing what I really stuck on is, Professor Satya's comment on everybody is involved in projects, right from BTechs. The first project probably all of us can think of is our BTech project or the MTech project, etc. So let me be very focused, and probably Professor Satya can start off on this. If I take the project management, if I take the curriculum of BTech, MTech or MBAs, what aspects of project management do you think should be there in the courses? What should we teach, as a compulsory component of project management in order to make students, do probably less mistakes than what Mr. Kesavaswamy has done for marriages and also in their professional lives, sir? Please.
Yeah, this is an important issue as to what do I teach when I teach project management. Okay, and very often, as I told you, it is seen, taught more from a perspective of planning, tools for planning. Especially as academics, you want to give exams, you want to give challenging problems, so bring in some OR into this, bring in PERT, because then you can bring in probability, right? You can get into distributions, whether it is beta distribution or what distribution to use, and then central limit theorem to say why you're doing a normal distribution and the overall stuff and all that. So that's from that perspective, I think it's a lot of people take that approach to teaching these courses because we are comfortable. I can give a mathematics kind of problem and all those things. But project management involves a lot of aspects, right? Starting from planning and scheduling and control is one aspect of project management. Equally important are all the other aspects. We talk about when you're managing projects, you're talking about quality delivery. So obviously, quality becomes an important issue. We talk about scope, right? How do you define a project? See, the important thing that we talk about a project is where there's a start and end. Okay, typically projects involve, how is it different from operations management? Operations management is same thing you repeat over and over and keep, you run a hotel, you change linen when the guest leaves, you get it ready for the next guest, and you try to make it more and more efficient. But in the case of project management, there's a change that is happening over the duration of the project. Different kinds of skill set people come at different points of time. You should get the right resource at the right time, of the right quantity, of the right quality so that you get the delivery. So people management become very important in a project management. That is the HR aspect of it in terms of right people with right skills, right attitude, right ability to work in teams. Project management is always a team aspect. So how do people work in teams? So the OB, organizational behavior aspect of project management, is equally important. Then we have the issue of procurement, right? Where we talk about what should be procured, the right things to be procured at the right time, delivered at the right time, and so on. So procurement involves a lot of issues, including contracts, right? First of all, identifying in terms of giving the technical parameters of the product to be procured, to identifying the vendor, then you get into contracts. So understanding of the contractual framework when projects work, that's also a very important topic. So if you take and PMI has given a nice framework of the PMBOK model where all the knowledge areas have been very nicely documented. Communication management becomes very important. As I told you earlier, one of the big problems with using some of these tools in the early days was a huge amount of data that I was given. Probably I just needed, because at the top management level, they need data at a particular level of granularity. And as you go down, the project manager requires it at a different level of granularity. The person who is managing, let us say, I have this project with 10 buildings. The person managing each individual building needs a certain level of granularity. The guy who is handling only foundations needs a different level of granularity. Now, how I communicate the information? You don't want an information overload. At the same time, you don't want the critical information to be missed out at the right time and so on. So communication becomes very important. So I think, so project management should be given a broad swath across all this. But to make it academically challenging and interesting, I think, almost giving these tools, which is making you say, like planning and scheduling, network diagrams, also should be taught. So otherwise it becomes too descriptive, because at least at the undergraduate level, the students are still not mature enough to understand the broad picture and so on. Maybe at the master's level, hopefully people have experience and come, they're able to handle it, they're able to understand the big picture in a better way. So how you teach it at different levels, see, for example, right now we are teaching in our undergraduate program in IIT Madras and also in IIT Tirupathi. We used to have two courses at one time on estimating. Now it's one course. Now they combined estimating and project management to one course, right? Now within the framework of so many competing requirements, everyone you talk to, they'll say this has to be taught, right? I would say engineering economics has to be taught to all the students, a basic skill. Project management taught. Then if you're in mechanical engineering, thermal people will say thermal is the most important topic. You talk to design people, they'll say design is most important. Like in civil engineering, everyone will say structures is the most important, because if the building falls, what is the point? You may finish it on time, right? So in this competing requirements, what has to be taught becomes a challenge. But we talk about nowadays the T model, where you give a broad overview and something you go in depth, right? So I would suggest that at an undergraduate level, give an overall perspective of project management, use the PMBOK framework to give the thing, and then maybe scheduling go a little bit in depth. When you come to a master's, if you like the program we have, the construction technology and management program at IIT Madras, we have individual courses in each of this. You have one course on planning and control, you have one course on contracts, you have one course on construction economics and finance, you have one course related to productivity and lean construction and so on. So you have multiple courses. We have one course on quality and safety, right? In the context of construction, safety becomes important. And today, what is happening is another dimension that has come is sustainability. In the whole context of this, how do we bring in the sustainability aspects in all these operations and so on? So what we teach at different levels, but most important is at the undergraduate level, at least everyone should go out with a broad understanding, because everyone will be doing projects. So that basic understanding of the overall framework and some skills in planning would be important. That would be my take.
I think I agree with Professor Satya. For engineering students, we could also focus little bit on what I use a term project engineering focus. That means defining the projects, because they will have a technical expertise. So creating a work breakdown structure, till now we do not have any AI or ML tool to do that. You need a domain expertise. So how to do that part is very, very important. And along with it, as Professor Satya also said, materials and procurement management. One more dimension I would like to use while you are doing this work breakdown structure, you see multiple subsystems get into your project. So the integration of these subsystems, because the engineers will understand these dynamics, so that dimension also we can focus more on that, besides giving an overview of project management process, starting from initiation, planning, execution and close out. For the management students at master's level, I think focus has to be more on the execution side, because the planning is done by the technical set of people, and there we need to look at that they learn how to really track a project, how to provide the feedback. These are softer aspects of project management. I remember there are examples where logistics team is not properly connected with the scheduling team and those who are providing resources, and the project go haywire. One error actually costs you a month delay and huge cost. So those are some of the inputs, just to add what Satya was telling. Thank you.
I'll just build up on this further, especially Mr. Ganesan. As we can see, and as the previous speakers have also said, we are in a cusp of time where we are building a lot of infrastructure. There is a country where we are looking at a lot of projects coming up. Do you like to add or comment on what Professor Satya and Professor Karuna Jain has told earlier on what is required from an industry's perspective?
So if I contextualize to the future, India is going through national infrastructure pipeline, which is a very focused infrastructure development across the sectors, right from roads, airports, seaports, every walk of railway network, power transmission. If I take one example, we are talking about getting 500 gigawatts of renewable power. If you take from 2023 to 2030, what must happen, 500 gigawatts of renewable, plus rejuvenation into thermal power plants. They are talking about another 20 gigawatts to come, over 200 gigawatts what they have got today. Green energy is in the focus. And we are talking about airport passenger handling capacity going from 300 to 800 million. 180,000 kilometers of highway construction, developing the tier 3 airports, and continue the journey on metro across the main cities and secondary cities, and dedicated freight corridors, high-speed rail, bullet train happening between Mumbai and Ahmedabad, continuing with that semi-speed rail, and increasing the speed of the conventional tracks. All of this is infrastructure. Every aspect of it is going to be engineering. If I foundationally look at it, what is not going well is that clear understanding of interdependency and interrelationship of multiple components coming together. For if I had to put an equipment on top of a foundation, there should be a coordination between the mechanical engineer and the civil engineer. So thereby, if I macro it, conflict and ambiguity management is a must of a learning. While you plan and control, you put up a plan and you need to do the what if scenarios of what may go wrong, not only the risk, what if of what you planned perfectly not going well. So combination of project planning, control, what if, understanding of that ambiguity, conflicts of the softer aspect of the people dealing with it, harder aspects of the technicalities of it, along with proper understanding of the supply chain. Today, Government of India has come out with Gati Shakti, clear multimodal transportation as a culmination of relating movements of various commodities and components from one place to other, coming through sea and moving through the roads and things like that, combined with the ability of the manufacturers and the suppliers ecosystem brought into overall management. So it is too much overwhelming for the students, but introducing them to the concept of saying, you must know a composite management of anything and everything which you are going to do in the industry. The domain where you belong to, you will do, but you are going to exist in an ecosystem of coexistence of multiple talent people coming together, and everybody needs to talk one vocabulary, common data environment, common management systems and things like that. To that extent, you must expose yourself to the tools which enable integrated project management, getting the data as a single point of truth, so that it is not out of instinct. People go through the logical step. Aggregation of all that is the culmination of a successful project, what we call as concept to commissioning. Don't get too much enamored by the tools, because in the changing world of technology, some tool will get replaced with another tool tomorrow. So you need to, as Professor said, you need to be conceptually clear. What is critical path? Why the program evaluation review techniques have to be understood, the PERT, and what is the significance of it? Why that science has been brought in to manage sharper delivery of programs, and create an appreciation and a curiosity to come through that path is enough. Just one thing to add over and above the curriculum, it needs to be a simulated learning. When it comes to understanding a concept, like kindergarten kids, you show the visuals. In my opinion, it is really required in a technology world with a higher level of 3D and 4D visuals for higher education, because then you spend very little time, but grout the understanding in terms of the concept. Similarly, when it comes to something like a complex management of a project or the ecosystem using project management technique, you must simulate all the theoretical learnings through a very simple case study project. And we need to introduce some capstone project which needs to come from industry players, whether it is agile development of an IT project or using the conventional project management of an infrastructure. We need to have some simulation techniques and go about it, but at a very, very L1 or vanilla level for the students to appreciate that. In fact, I understand L&T EduTech also has brought in the capstone projects of L&T over the last 30, 40 years of complex projects in every segment of infrastructure, and applied the simulation tools with the support of Institute of Project Management, and that is available as a course, as an entry-level course for the budding engineers. I think if you are able to do that, that will be good. And the second aspect is that generally we don't appreciate, we want a degree. Quickly, how do I get that 160 credit? What I do to get in the shortest possible way for fulfillment is the culture which is existing holistically, whether it is faculty, parents, students, everybody. But there are some parts of the world, if you take, in my personal opinion, places like Germany, places like Singapore, Scandinavian countries, believe in the life skills, professional skills as certification. Today, the aerospace projects, you need to have a certification either with PMP, PMI, or equivalent or Prince. There's another tool, Prince 2, which is more structured and customized for aerospace. So IT projects, if you are not a certified Scrum Masters, some of the IT companies are not able to place their project managers for an international client. So can we blend the basic conceptual framework of academics along with the culture of getting themselves tested and certified and come into the industry to make themselves a differentiator? With the support of the industry, with the simulations and projects and immersions and blended learning, which people like L&T EduTech and others can do, if we are able to bring this, then we have created a movement. And at least over the next 7-10 years, when this NEP will take a full shape, National Education Policy taking the shape, we have got ready with proper vocational and cross-skilling and life skilling and the country's infrastructure thing, and probably next 2 decades is going to be India's game. And I don't think it's going to be brain drain, people moving out, and more Indians, if everything goes well, inshallah, they will be coming back to India. And I think keeping that in mind, if our academics and the students coming out get stronger, I think we have got a real game in hand. I think that's the way I look at it.
Thanks. I think thank you. I think the consensus what we are getting here is as an emphasis on concepts with an open mind for emerging tools and getting endorsed that they know the concepts and tools through certain certification programs. I think that's what the emerging consensus is coming up. For want of time, I would love to hear a lot, more, because this is a very good, insights which are coming up. But for the want of time, I will throw open one more theme, which I think is very important in this context. It's divided into 2 parts, because for academics to, progress, students and faculty, both of them are important. So we will try to get to that theme. Today, we have a lot of data, right, as Mr. Ganesan and I was saying. So on one hand, there is a lot of data which is coming towards students. So how do we engage students to look at and absorb this data? Like, for example, PDFs instead of textbooks, YouTube videos, short videos instead of long videos, etc. Second, in the world of AI/ML, right, where one is what are the skills which will make students relevant in this, and the second is how do we change ourselves as faculty in order to bring in relevant kind of things in this digital age to students. So these 2 questions, broad questions, I know, but quick thoughts if we can do.
Me to speak? Ganesh, you want to speak or I? Yeah, go ahead. I think we need to come up with multiple pedagogy. Over the year we have been changing. Earlier teaching was more teacher-centric. Now we are moving towards teacher becoming facilitator and it becomes student-centric. So we need to really mix and match, and I normally say if you want students to build skill, we need to bring in experiential sharing component, whether it is brought it in the form of a case or brought it in the form of experimenting with a tool, or given a situation and give them an assignment to work in a group and come up with solution. I give them lots of videos which I find on mega structure and National Geography, where we're talking about extreme engineering and construction projects, and ask them to look at this, collect the information and see if you were in place of this person, what will you do? And trying to bring in kind of a critical thinking component on that, where they use their basic knowledge, since the group is made a diverse group, so there is a mechanical engineer, computer science, electrical, and some of them which have non-engineering background. They sit down and then come up with very interesting insights, which maybe that video is not talking about, but there is information available. I also encourage them to go and talk to some of these people who are doing execution. So like Mumbai Metro, which is going on, there are lots of challenges. I asked them to go and visit, go and talk to those people. So it's a multi-dimensional approach you have to follow depending on what kind of students you've got. So I get students who are engineering from all disciplines, primarily more from IT or computer science side, and then some mechanical, chemical, civil. So if this structure changes, I change the projects. Okay. Only thing I do, if there are large number of civil engineers, I would put up more construction projects. If there are electrical engineer, I will pick up power projects. So we are looking at the latest one of the Badla project, Sagar Mala, Bharat Mala. All of these projects I am asking them to look at from a third person's perspective with your knowledge base, see how they have been conceptualized and how such a large project like Sagar Mala and Bharat Mala, they have like hundreds of projects, and how they are getting integrated. And that's why I was telling earlier that integration management is going to become very, very important. So if you look at PMI book, 6th version, they have already incorporated these knowledge areas like integration management. And I'm also looking at in technology development projects. Integration, which is a new term which earlier we used to use in systems thinking. Now we're saying system integration is must. And here, since system integration in the project parlance, we could just say integration management is very, very critical. And I think when you're looking at your engineering curriculum, those who are coming from the engineering schools should also look at that they learn the system integration component. We saw that in all our projects where we are successful, whether it is defense project, nuclear project or ISRO projects. The system integration is the skill which they have harnessed like anything.
Just one thing to add, there are 3 steps of any learning for the students, the way I look at it away from the campus. Number 1, the general conceptual learning of fundamentals of science, mathematics, engineering, which was the hardcore learning and focused classroom thing. Today is available as a vast digital diary with the generative AIs moving in. What is Newton's third law? We don't have to any longer explain. They can do the self-study and then tap into the resources and go about it. The bigger interface time has to be spent on 2 more matters. One is the concept-related manifested forms of how they will, with this conceptual understanding, what kind of manifested solutions they will provide. That is where you take the industry examples or the classical engineering examples which are part of the academics, where the interface between the academicians and the students will take place. And that needs to be spent together and a more challenging environment, tap into all the resources globally available and put them into that kind of instigated stage. The third one is give real life industry problems as a culmination of every course, every subject, not even a course, every subject they finish. For example, if you take a structural engineering, they do the component level understanding of how to go about beams and columns and the vertical loads and the seismic loads and wind loads and all that. But when they come into the industry on day 1, they are going to see an interface of connections and then going into the levels and then seeing the real life thing of geotech to structure. So if they are given a case study to solve, they start learning, they get the confidence also that, this is what I am going to do. I know the fundamentals. I can solve this because I have gone through that learning path. If somebody is not familiar with gas insulated substation and they are in that old conventional substations in the electrical engineering, today you give them a simulation of, I want these entry conditions and the performance conditions with the safety net which is to be designed with the relay coordination. What will be the configuration of a GIS? that can come from the industry and then they can talk about it. I think that conviction level will go up and they become industry ready and they are much more employable and deployable. I think that is one thing which will help us. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. We will, sir, please go ahead. Just,
Moderator, with your permission, I want to convey some messages. Two things, quickly I will finish. Professor has to leave now. One, regarding this reading from different sources, right? On that I have a suggestion. In addition to our curriculum, we should encourage people for professional membership in societies like IEEE, ACM. Since I am a computer science professional, I am referring to that. The respective branches are PMI, right? Like that, PMI student chapters are also established. The issue is this, in any project, okay, I start from academic. In academic, the subject is divided into electrical engineering, chemical engineering, civil engineering, mathematics, science, psychology, like that, for operational convenience. But in real world, any project comes which calls for integrated knowledge from different disciplines, and any individual curriculum does not address to that, to solve the problem in a real project domain. I have personally seen, and most of you also would have seen, in professional societies, you get technical magazines, journals, and any one of those articles, if you see, they are multidisciplinary in nature. There will be some physics, there will be some mathematics, there will be some psychology, right? See, for example, when the pilotless aircraft comes, first time when it's going, people will not board that, right? 500 rupees pilotless aircraft, piloted aircraft 5,000 rupees. Still, I will prefer to go by piloted aircraft only. Right? So, to win the confidence of the people, that is psychology is also involved, right? In any project, there will be different disciplines required, and a membership in professional society provides opportunity for that holistic thinking that will come. Second thing, professional membership provides a lot of opportunity to create, to have practice that soft skill, what we call communication, negotiation, working together, teamwork, and event management like this. This kind of opportunities young students will have as a member of professional society. That way, that is also important. And finally, this I would like to say, based on my personal experience in teaching in TCS and also in academia, generally the application area is needing attention. That's what I feel. People should be able to apply, unless scoring centum is no use, if they cannot apply. I give a typical example. Again, this time I will talk about my daughter. With that I am completing. I was in ISRO. One day when I went home, my daughter showed me a photo. She was in UKG class. She showed me a photograph of my mother with dark ballpoint pen on that. Appa party is looking through window. So she has created a window for the bear. See what had happened in the school that day, teacher had taught her how to use a scale to draw lines, and baby has applied that to create a window, right? We only tell the child whatever taught in the school, go come and practice at home. Then that was an important photo for me, but fortunately I saw those lines were fairly parallel and those lines were fairly equally spaced, so I could recognize that as periodic noise. Once I recognize as a periodic noise, scan that and apply Fourier transform, inverse Fourier transform, remove that noise lines, my mother was back without. So this application mindset is a critical thing. So my suggestion would be, not only in project management course, in any course in academic curriculum, I'm not talking about changing the curriculum, all those things, I'm talking about delivery of the program. The focus should be on application. Whatever thought where it is applied has to be always emphasized, or as panelists were telling, there are other online resources are also available. Let the students go and find the answer, whatever taught in the class, right from simple Ohm's law, whatever taught in the classroom, where it is applied, that knowledge is very, very critical. Otherwise, learning is really no use, right, if one cannot apply. That's what I feel. The sources of learning can be different video sources, different online sources, or books, or library, or from teachers, but ultimately applying what he has learned in a real problem situation is critical. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we are running out of time, so I'll take the liberty of deferring the audience questions to the high tea, where the panel would be available, and I know there are a lot of questions, but we have another interesting keynote lecture following this. So with permission of the panel, I would bring this to a close. I think the consensus is to still have the emphasis on concepts with an open mind to whatever technology comes into picture, and have some interaction with the society and industry through form of professional bodies like PMI, and get certified so that you get endorsed for your skills. So that's, I think, the focus which has come out of this panel. It's a great panel. Thank you very much. Some of you are moving on to some other engagements, I understand, but thank you very much for spending time with us today. Thank you very much.
I request Mr. Yadur to felicitate the panelists, please. I also request Dr. BTCS Rao, Dr. Anbuthambi, and Dr. Roy to come on stage for. Request the dignitaries on stage to stand for a group photograph, please. We now move on to the next session. Professor BTCS Rao is here. He is the Dean of L&T Institute of Project Management, and he'll be delivering the keynote address. In his 34 years of professional experience, Mr. Rao executed large engineering projects and provided guidance to several project managers, engineering managers, and construction managers. Prior to joining L&T IPM, he has founded Shrestha Solutions with a mission to impart and instill project management best practices and competencies in engineering construction industry. He has held various senior management, project management positions in Indian operations of large multinationals and has worked with several Fortune 100 clients. Mr. Rao is a certified CEO coach, a renowned speaker, and has conducted several training sessions and workshops on the best practices of project management. I leave the stage to him.
Good evening. Good evening. Okay, fantastic. I know that this is the last one before the tea. I'm standing between you and the IT. A few things I think as a member of academic advisory group and along with the PMI we deliberated that there needs to be a discussion interface with academia to discuss the changing phases of project management and also related to the current context of where we are, how the things in the industry, things in the digital world are happening. How many of you think that AI is still far distant dream? AI is here or is it still far distant dream? How many of you feel AI is here? Yeah, all of you feel. Really, if you look at any of the applications, whether in-house applications or mobile applications, around 77% of them run with AI. And if you look at the business, artificial intelligence, we are talking about GPT and all the stuff, the industry, as the AI industry is also going to be about $16 billion. What does it mean is that currently what you are experiencing as small episodes of intelligence which is coming through Amazon surveys or some other recommendations coming automatically to you or news clips appearing in your screen automatically, these are all a fraction of what we are going to see. In the coming few years, almost everything else will be, whatever that can be done monotonously and intelligence that can be checked and rechecked and to its proximity to reality, that will be automated. That will probably be in the AI. Which would mean that if our education system, our way of executing the projects, if it remains in a conventional way, we probably are lagging behind. Our speakers told about, I think excellent panel discussion. I have actually noted down. I will try to summarize the notings which already Venkata did anyway. I think rightfully, I think all the panelists talked about having the core concepts strong. Your foundation has to be strong. Whether you are in engineering, arts, management, anywhere, your foundation has to be strong. But the foundation being strong, in terms of the concepts, if it stops there, we have a problem. Then you probably will be teaching the same concepts on and on, especially when you relate to the elementary school teachers or middle school teachers. They may be teaching the same thing, they may be expert in teaching the same thing n number of times, but is it preparing the people for facing the real life problems of the world, etc.? That's, I think, it is an important question. So which would mean that while concepts have to be strong, we probably have to look at application and the context of application very seriously. For example, I spent about 40 years, for 34 years before coming to IPM and last 7 years with IPM, everything related to project management. I remember in my beginning of the career, when we talk about project management, we used to talk about 1,200, 600, 1,600 activities in a big project, and probably a project report will have about 300, 400 pages. Are your students ready to read those 300, 400 pages? How many pages a student will read today? How many? Hardly 5 pages, maybe 1 page. 1 page per day is actually an excellent. The issue is that, is it deteriorating reading ability? No. The knowledge which used to come to us through papers and other mediums, or the normal medium, the printed medium, is coming through visual mediums. People are, if you may be hearing the stories about somebody trying to create a localized machine by seeing few YouTube videos. Where is learning is happening through reading a 400-page textbook, or is happening through 40 hours of watching the YouTube video? Which would mean that the end goal of teaching is learning. Whether you are learning through a script which is 400 pages, or whether you are learning through a simulated environment, whether you are learning through a YouTube channel, or whether you are learning to just by walking and listening to a program, we have to really look at the things from the student perspective. Because we don't want the students to know what is a plus b whole square, any book will tell. Now if you talk about what is the end value management or what is third order differential equation solution when these are the boundary conditions, there are n number of tools available. You don't have to really sit in the classroom and find out how to solve these problems, isn't it, in the society. So coming to the context of the education system, etc., conventional way to refer a textbook, to teach in the classroom some formulae and writing on the board, that probably doesn't work. Which would mean that I have to ask the students the right questions to instigate their thinking. Today, if I give an assignment, for example, that's why if you look at Harvard Business School or something like that, the most of the teaching is based on the case studies. Case studies are not the theories which will say, this is X type of the law is applicable, etc. But they will say they create a real life situation and ask the people to think. If you are able to ask the people, our students, to think, also ask them to find out solutions in ChatGPT, online programs like Project Management Education Program, EduTech, or any other online sources which Uday was referring to. Let them explore those opportunities, but the first question is, are we giving the students instigating the problem, the right problem for them to think through? Because that is the only way people can, because today, if somebody is interested in art or making some doll or something like that, he can always look into YouTube videos and try to make something out. It is coming because he has an intention to learn some skill and some skill which he feels important for the student. So the second part I feel generally is that, are we creating the importance of thinking a project execution or executing in software projects or mega projects as infrastructure projects is the key to building the society. Every student is realizing that he has the potential to be a national builder because of the problems he is able to solve today in his class is going to help him to solve bigger problems in the field. Are we able to give that kind of thinking to the students is extremely important. So all the tools which are available to us, like ChatGPT, etc. ChatGPT, do you think it is an enemy of learning or friend of learning? Friend of learning, so, right? So we all agree that ChatGPT, but it is also necessary, I mean, as the ChatGPT COO also told, it can give you the impression that it is giving you the right solution, may not be the right solution, right? Congruence is not equal to truth. Because ChatGPT is, can anybody say what is the expansion of GPT? Oh, so we use the term, okay. It is generally, I mean, all artificial intelligence has GAN and GPT. GPT is the generic pre-trained transformer. Generic pre-trained transformer. What it does is, they put an algorithm, ask the system to go through the algorithm into multiple data that is available to us. Like that's why ChatGPT doesn't give you anything which is latest because the learning for it stopped in 2021, right? So if you ask about current situation, probably ChatGPT will not give. Which would mean that any systems, when you are using, any tools which you are using, it is necessary for us to see that what are the limitations and what are the advantages. For example, when I was going through some of the publications of Harvard Business School, so one of the process, what he did is, he asked he formulated a case study, asked ChatGPT to find out a solution or a number of a series of outcomes that can come. Then he asked ChatGPT to classify the outcomes in terms of the problem definition, application, and then futuristic applications, etc. Then he also asked the ChatGPT, now I have 3 types of students in my class. This is class type A, type B, type C. Can you tell if I give this problem, what type 1 student will say, type 2 student will say, type 3 student will say? What I'm saying is, by doing all these exercises, typically what we used to spend a lot of time in researching about information, researching about, thinking about alternatives, probably these tools can give you at instance of maybe few minutes, etc. 3 hours we used to do in the classroom, the curriculum development, you probably can do it in 30 minutes. So my friends, the suggestion is always that use the tools, understand the limitations. My friends talked about Primavera and all. Primavera has excellent features, and 90% of the features are not known to be the persons who are using the particular tool, which would mean that you should know what it is contained, what can do, what it can't do. Primavera in the earlier form cannot do a portfolio management. Now there are facilities which is being created. So which would mean that if I am asking a company to use Primavera to tell the characteristics of multiple projects, how they are behaving, what can I do as an organization, probably Primavera is not the tool. When I am looking at projects like linear projects where road laying, etc. Road laying is a simple activity with multiple layers to be compacted. But it is a complex activity because these actions are done at multiple locations. So my Primavera may not be a solution. Probably I need to look into TILOS, which is time and location software, etc. So the question always is, I talk about the basics, I leverage the tools. When I am leveraging the tools, understand the boundaries, understand the limitations, and understand the opportunities that those particular tools will create. Incidentally, in our institute, we apply all these principles in our teaching. We also, a lot of times, we also say that whatever we teach is something to be applied. Otherwise, giving simple theory may not be useful. So we always classified people into various levels. If you have a competency, what does the risk management in a competency level? One is maybe to identify the risk. What is the risk management competency at the 4th level is to look at the complex situations and come up with a solution, probably a 4th level of competency. So we try to map it to various levels, and then we use some of the models like Kirkpatrick model. When you are designing, we used Bloom's taxonomy. If you haven't been familiar with Bloom's taxonomy, please do refer. Bloom's taxonomy talks about a lower order or a smaller order thinking skills and higher order thinking skills. Smaller order thinking skills for routine understanding and application. Higher order thinking skills are for application and solving the sophisticated and creating a new entities, etc. We use Kirkpatrick method to see that whether we are what we are giving is understood by student, or what is the impact of his learning on the business, on the society, etc. My friends, my suggestion, you are all great academicians, you have influence on lives of several people who are working, who are going to be coming to your institutions for learning. Please let them know that whatever we teach, that needs to be having some impact, on the society, impact on themselves, and when it has an impact, and we are able to measure the impact, that is the real solution of teaching that which are going to give to the world. Because each and every student has the potential to be a national builder. Each and every faculty in this room has the potential to be creating many national builders. That's what you should be proud of. As an institute, I mean, like a PMI or even our institute IPM, knowledge is abundantly available. And if the knowledge abundantly available is not for just acquisition, but it is for application, as long as our teaching methodologies are recognizing the fact that there are concepts which are at the foundation of any teaching, there are tools available that have to be leveraged. I remember earlier days, academia, we used to think that we should not ask anybody to use a calculator because you are reducing the mathematical ability. But is it necessary for a student to do the mathematics, or is it necessary for the student to use the mathematics for creating a solution? So then I think my calculators have become a normal part of the education. So sometimes we need to come out of this thinking that if I use Primavera or use MS Project or TILOS or ChatGPT, these are restrictive, they are not restrictive. Any tools, we use it effectively for teaching, that is going to create wonders, and you probably will create wonderful students. We have gone through several discussions. We always realize the importance of project management. I was a part of chairman of a technical committee which created Indian infrastructure body of knowledge, because a lot of the problems infrastructure industry had, they're available freely on the NICPP website. A lot of things are happening in the government as well. Gatisekti, if some of you are not familiar, please go into the website and see. Gatisekti is a culmination of the technology and the infrastructure, how they can be married together. All the information related to the underground utilities, road lines, gas lines, everything is mapped onto this one. If somebody has to take care of the social aspects of stakeholder management, they can click the button and know who the collector is. They can click the button and know who the local authority is for the approval, etc. So technology is taking leaps and bounds to help execute large capital projects, whether it is software project, office projects, or national infrastructure projects. The technology is being leveraged several ways. When you see Aadhaar, how it has transformed itself. Technology is entering every stage of life, every walk of life. We embrace the technology and use the technology to make our teaching super effective, to create super national builders. With that thought, I thank you all for coming here. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. Tools and technologies are to be looked up as enablers, and it's important to ask the right questions to make the learners go beyond textbooks and look for experiential learning to bring the desired results. That's the takeaway today for all of us. With that note, I request Diopam Roy, faculty L&T IPM, to deliver the vote of thanks.
At the end of such long and illustrious discussion, I'll take one more minute to thank the people involved. So firstly, I'd like to thank Dr. CJK for setting the context. I would like to thank the panelists, Dr. Satyanarayana, Dr. Karuna Jain, Mr R Ganesan, and Dr. Kesavaswamy for their insights. I'd like to thank Dr. Venkata Santosh Ali for the nice moderation. Thanks to Professor VTCS Rao for the nice summarizing. Thanks to Mr. Udayadur and the PMI team for their contribution in arranging this. Thanks to Dr. Anbuthambi, Rajappa, Maheshwari and the EduTech team for coordinating this event. And I would also like to thank my colleagues at L&T IPM for putting our part. And thanks to Pandya Raj and the admin team who are managing the convention center. Lastly, thank to all the participants who have spent their time, and I think it's a fruitful time. So the Japanese, they do most of their business decisions while playing golf. We will have most of our knowledge questions while having tea, chai pe charcha. So please join us for the tea. We'll have the tea, and there only you have all the questions we'll have there. Thanks to Emma for the comparing.
Thank you, Dr. Roy. So all is well that ends well. It's been wonderful afternoon, and I'm sure all of you are left with deep insights that have kindled your thoughts. It's time for closure, and I request all guests to rise for national anthem. Post that, I request the delegates to come near the stage to take a group photo. Thanks.
जनगणमन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे